More numerous, no, but keep quiet.
Wow.
Priests, bishops, and cardinals, says the Pope. If that's true, again, that is stunning. And the question is, why are they still in office? Boy, we'll be hearing more and more about that for sure. But the big news really is the World Cup. I hope you got to see it yesterday. I was out. This is not my normal style, but I was out at a bar again yesterday with some friends. Went down specifically to watch the World Cup at a little bar called Pacifico here on 8th Street on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And it was a Sunday afternoon, beautiful day, a huge crowd in the bar watching, and every screen turned onto the World Cup game. Very, very, very exciting, of course. I mean, the whole World Cup, I think, has been a great, great series. The United States team starting off to a very, very strong start. The games continued, a lot of excitement, a lot of drama, and yesterday it all wound up with that incredible match between Germany and Argentina. I mean, it was such a great game. Germany with such precision and such control of the ball, and yet Argentina just mounted this incredible defense that would not allow any opening for the German players to get through, unlike Brazil, right, where Germany just creamed them. Argentinians really held on. And it went, even though Messi, the probably greatest player in the world, would have scored, except he was offsides. Did shoot, did make it in, but he was offside. So
I know, it's tragic.
That was really tragic. But so the whole game, the first 90 minutes went scoreless. They go into overtime. The first 15 minutes of overtime, no score. And then here is from J.P. Della Camera on ESPN with the goal.
Running it down the left sideline. Plays it across to the box by Götze. And Götze scored off the left foot. Beating the goalkeeper to his left. Germany is leading in the game. In the 113th minute. Germany has one hand on the trophy. But there's still time left.
Still time left, and they played right to the end. De La Camera, though, just a few minutes later, gives the final call.
And that's it, final whistle. It's Germany's time for a fourth time. They're world champions.
Yeah, it was Mario Götze who scored that goal. He came off the bench to score that goal. The guy who set him up, the forward, Andrew Schüller, in perfect English, tells us how exciting it was for him to make that pass to Mario.
Yeah, I just got the ball and I wanted to make one last dribbling in this match, and I got through and crossed it in hope that someone is there, and Mario was doing it perfectly with his chest and his left foot. It was one of the best moments, maybe the best moment in my life. And then with the trophy, this trophy is so beautiful, so wonderful. And
I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited. Again, Angela Merkel was there in the stadium watching Germany win. Mark Hummel, a defender for Germany, also very excited.
It was a moment of brilliance. From Andre and Mario, it was, I don't know how you say, a stunning goal. It was really good. I think something's worth a championship, and that was a great moment for all of us.
Yeah, great game to watch. The first time that the games have been held, the World Cups have been held in the Western Hemisphere since 1994 here in the United States. First time since 1990 that Germany has won a World Cup, and the first time ever that a European team has crossed the Atlantic and carried the World Cup home. World leaders there included not only Angela Merkel, but Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, and LeBron James, the champion of the United States, who got as much attention.
Almost a politician.
He got as much attention as any of the world leaders who were there yesterday. And what was stunning is that the reports I heard yesterday, how many people around the world were watching that game. Estimated, we haven't seen the numbers yet this morning, but projected over 1 billion people watching at home yesterday. I mean, that's incredible. For 1 billion people. In 2010, I checked last night, The last World Cup, 3.2 billion people watched at home. That is 1/2 of the world's population watched the World Cup World Cup games in 2010. I mean, that's just amazing, amazing how popular the sport is around the world. We've got a lot of catching up to do here in the United States. I'm sure we'll see that the record for yesterday's World Cup final, as well as the games with the USA team, we know that they set all kinds of records. We'll continue to set records here in the United States, but we're still far behind the rest of the world. And that's my question to you this morning. Did you watch? Did you continue to watch after Team USA was no longer in the World Cup? And do you have a newfound love for soccer that will continue after the World Cup is over? One of the things you've got to admit is, and Peter and I have talked about this, I think we talked about here on the air, is one of the things that keeps you, to me, and I'm not a sports fan, but I really got into this World Cup. I mean, I figured out last night that I watched all or part of 7 World Cup games.
Wow, is that a record for you?
A record? That's probably more professional sports, just the World Cup, than I have watched basketball, baseball, football, golf in my entire life that I watched of this World Cup. And one of the reasons is because it's so much fun to watch, because it's so captivating, it's so intense. And what I love about it, there are no commercials, right? You got 90 minutes of unbroken time, no commercials, and no corporate propaganda. So you don't have to hear about the latest tires or the latest ED medicines, or contraptions or kind of whatever. No, I mean, nothing about that. It's just pure sports. And the guy goes down, and they're treating him, and the clock keeps running. It's just there's really nothing like it. I got to tell you, I'm hooked. Is it going to last for you? 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77-377. World Cup, it's over. Damn it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, 25 minutes after the hour, talking about the big excitement of the World Cup winding up yesterday with an incredible match. You're watching that and you see what all the excitement about soccer is all about. Watching, again, the German team with that just incredible control over the ball. And the way they were able to, the way they were able to direct those passes with either, it's like, it's incredible. Either foot, they can use their left foot, their right foot, they can send it in any direction. And their headers, they can even aim these headers or score with these headers. It's just incredible. And you had that German team, and yet the Argentinians, a lot more scrappy. With an incredible defense, and they just had a blue line there in front of the goal that the Germans were unable to get through for 90 minutes, and then for another 15 minutes, and then for another 5 minutes or more before they were finally able to score. Incredible. By the way, just to show the popularity of the game worldwide, there were, I saw last night, 692,000 tourists showed up came to Brazil for the games from 203 different countries. And there were more Americans, North Americans, United States citizens, because we're all Americans, more people from the United States than from any other country that went to Brazil for the games. We do have the numbers in, by the way, in terms of the estimated 1 billion people worldwide watching yesterday. In the UK, where soccer is football,
huge game,
incredibly popular, a peak television audience of more than 20 million viewers watched Germany's extra time win over Argentina yesterday, and most of them were on BBC One. The rest were on the ITV. Yeah. 16.7 million on BBC One, 3.8 million on ITV. So hugely popular in the UK. We don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers worldwide yet, but they're going to be way up there. And I guess the question is, it keeps coming back to, what's it going to take, and is this enough to make football, or soccer as we call it, as popular here in the United States as it is around the rest of the world? And why isn't it as popular here? I mean, more people play soccer than any other sport. It is, I think, again, more satisfying, more fun, more intense to watch than any other sport. It's as exciting as any other sport. I think even more exciting than most. So why not? Why don't we join the rest of the world in becoming soccer fans, not just every 4 years? I'm going to do my share. I'm going to go out and buy some tickets to DC United and go see a couple of soccer games this year. All right. And so I'm a convert. I'm hooked here on the Bill Press Show Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Okay, before we move on here, just a couple of more comments here about the exciting World Cup. Ended yesterday with that very, very exciting game between Germany and Argentina. Germany coming out on top, 1-0. Davis with a comment from Radford, Virginia. Hello, Davis. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, before this, I didn't like soccer at all, but I found it to be very exciting. And when I watched in the sports bar the last time the Americans played, everybody was so depressed when we lost. I looked around, and I felt like getting up and yelling, "Yay, America!" You know, heck, who cared whether they lost? They played so good.
They did play so well. No, I mean, we could really be proud of that team. By the way, Davis, you know, I hope that President Obama, even though they didn't win, right? I hope he brings the Team USA to the White House. He does that for a lot of championship teams, but I think USA, our soccer team, deserves that. Don't you?
Yes, you can't just kick them to the curb on that.
No.
There's sour grapes, and they should have been so extremely proud of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you watch after the Team USA, other games after the USA played?
Yes, I was watching the one the last game with the Germans. I didn't watch the one where they tromped on Brazil, but I watched the one yesterday, and that was really an exciting game.
It was. I'm telling you, anybody who missed it, they missed some of the best sports I've ever seen on television for sure. And let me just say, Davis, I did watch the. I watched the Germany-Brazil game until I couldn't stand it any longer. So you didn't miss anything by not watching that. Good to hear from you. Thanks so much for the call. And I think I think there are a lot of people like Davis and me who are going to be. I'm not going to be satisfied to wait 4 years to watch any more soccer. We're going to keep up with it. You, Elisa, were at a pizza shop yesterday watching.
Yeah, just actually right downstairs at Seventh Hill Pizza. It was packed. People were on their feet watching the game towards the end there. It was so exciting. And, that's one of the differences you really see when you watch these, international players is when you look at the lines, there's forwards, there's middle, there's defense. There's three, the left, middle, right. And you'll see them just move, like they're all in the same body, just up and down the field. And that's what's really amazing. And you saw that a lot in the U.S. game, in their last game. You didn't have that movement towards the very end. They were all together. Because as you center that ball, you need, as the German forward who assisted Goetze on that goal, if you're not there, you really have to move all as one.
The teamwork is phenomenal. I talked to one of our sons yesterday who actually, he watched the game yesterday in a frozen yogurt shop in California. So I think everywhere there was a TV yesterday, in any public place, it was tuned to the World Cup. Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., the focus on immigration. That's what dominated the Sunday talk shows yesterday. And it's gotten to the point where that probably we're going to see a vote this week. The real dilemma Republicans are facing is how can they continue to attack and criticize President Obama for doing nothing about the border, which is not true, by the way. There are more guards at the border, more security at the border, more fences at the border, more drones at the border than ever before. How can they? But how can they continue to criticize him for doing nothing and then refuse to give him the resources he needs to solve the problem? The $3.7 billion that the president requested last week from Congress as an emergency supplemental directed right at the southern border, particularly to deal with this influx of some 52,000 young children who have come across the border from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. John McCain. So Republicans are all over the place on this, all over the place. And most of them don't know what the hell they're talking about, including John McCain, whom you think should know better after all he's been around a long time. He's from a border state, Arizona. But here's what he says the solution is.
The only way that this is going to stop is if plane loads of children arrive back in the countries in Central America that they came from, and their parents see the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that they have paid to the human traffickers is wasted. Okay, so this is John McCain saying, like Lindsey Graham said, same thing. We ought to just put all these kids. Remember, we're talking in some cases 6-year-old, 7-year-old children. Put them all on a plane and just send them back to the country that they came from. Now, just a couple of things, a couple of points on that. Number one, the law, that would be against the law. The law that George W. Bush signed, the law that John McCain voted for, the law that passed unanimously both houses of Congress in the final days of the Bush presidency. The law that requires that if children come here, unaccompanied children, come here from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, from Central America, not from Mexico, that they have to be placed in a detention center. They have to be held until they can appear with an attorney in front of an immigration judge, and their status is decided by the immigration judge. That is the law of the land. So what John McCain is basically saying, the law that I voted for, the law that George Bush signed, the law that is on the books, we should just ignore. I mean, that's irresponsible for any politician to put forward, let alone John McCain. He knows better. The other side of it is, you've got to ask, why are these kids coming here, right? Why are their parents making that sacrifice and putting their and taking the risk of putting their kids through that? Why? Because of the conditions, the inhumane conditions that exist in those countries, which, you know, the gang violence, the drug violence, the fact that these kids, we've heard the stories where they're told, you know, you either join us or we're going to kill you. We're going to kill everybody in your family. And so for John McCain to say, we're just going to put them back there, we don't care, just throw them back into that situation is just absolutely shocking to me. That a man who once led the Republican Party would even suggest that. Rick Perry is all over the place too. Rick Perry says, he keeps saying, the National Guard, as if the National Guard's going to solve. We don't have. Just put out the National Guard and everything will be resolved, according to Rick Perry. Here's Rick Perry.
Well, the issue is with being able to send that message, because it's the visual of it that I think that is the most important, and we know that. We listen to the conversations, or I should say their conversations are being monitored with calls back to Central America, and the message is, hey, come on up here, everything is great, they're taking care of us, and that needs to stop.
So Rick Perry says just put the National Guard, and the visual of the National Guard all along the border will stop people from coming here. Again, he's nuts. That's not the answer either. As so many people have pointed out, these kids are not afraid of Border Patrol agents or afraid of the National Guard. They're not trying to escape capture. They want to be captured. They're coming here and they're turning themselves in. If they see somebody in uniform, they run up to them and knowing what the law is, because they're hungry, they're thirsty, and they want to be picked up, and they want to start through this process. So the answer, and we'll talk more about this with Scott Bland coming up next from Hotline. The answer, as President Obama said again in his radio address over the weekend, pass comprehensive immigration reform that's got everything in it to solve the border and to pass for citizenship for people who are here illegally. It's all contained in the comprehensive immigration reform bill that passed the Senate. Pass that in the House, and meanwhile, pass a supplemental appropriation, give the president the resources he needs to deal with this flood of kids at the border. And just basically, for the Republicans, stop opposing everything Obama wants and start working with him to solve this problem. Again, Scott Bland coming up. Scott Bland from Hotline next on the Bill Press Show this Monday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour here on a Monday morning, starting off a new week, Monday, July 14. Good to see you today. And we are joined now, as we are every Monday morning, by our good friends from the Hotline today, Executive Editor Scott Bland. Hello, Scott. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. You were able to catch the World Cup yesterday?
Yes, I was. Wish a little bit more had happened, but it was a good tournament.
It was pretty exciting, wasn't it? Yesterday's game. Yeah. And especially if you're from Germany, but
right.
Yeah, and I saw some article that the Brazilians actually ended up a lot of them rooting against Argentina.
That's right. I mean, Argentina is the great historical rival of Brazil, and as painful as it probably must have been for them to root for Germany after Germany beat them 7-1.
Right.
The idea of Argentina winning, there's still a great national wound in Brazil from having lost the last World Cup Brazil hosted to Uruguay, which is not quite the rival that Argentina is. So if Argentina had won it on their home soil, I think everyone would have been pretty upset indeed.
I know it's always interesting how loyalties change. I was impressed that Angela Merkel came all the way from Germany for that match because, with soccer, I mean, Germany could have lost, right? I mean, the Argentinians are really, really good. I was wondering...
They very easily could have, yeah.
I was wondering if the Team USA had been in the finals, would President Obama have gone to Brazil for the game? That's
a good question. Merkel has a reputation as being a particularly big soccer fan.
Yeah.
Obama does not, but obviously it would have been a big moment. That's kind of an interesting hypothetical to ponder.
All right, we have some more important things maybe to talk about, but I do have to ask you this question, which I find intriguing. Okay, so you're watching the game, and there's potential of a foul or something, right? And so the ref comes over, and he's talking. So you got the ref and and he's talking to members of both teams, right? Okay, so he's talking to the Germans, he's talking to the Argentinians, and the ref is probably from Brazil. What language are they speaking?
I've wondered this myself. I think all the referees are supposed to know a little bit of English at least, and I imagine a lot of the players do too because some of them
Germans
play.
Certainly do. Yeah.
But you'll know that there's a lot of emphasis on hand gestures, which.
But they're talking. They're communicating. I think you're right. I think it must be English as the world language. Maybe at one time it might have been French, but not today. But it's fascinating to me. That's what everybody at the bar I was at was talking about. What language are they speaking? So I just got all right. Hey, so Scott, Congress is coming back to town today or tomorrow. What's on the agenda this week? Can we look forward to getting anything done?
Well, so the big item right now is the potential appropriation to help fix the immigration crisis going on.
The supplemental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the major development with that at this time was kind of predictable, really. The Republicans are pushing back on the dollar figure that the Obama administration requested for this particular appropriation, and saying that the crisis can be diffused with less money. The administration proposed $3.7 billion to work on the problem, and Republican opposition is kind of coalescing to that figure, and the idea is growing that this can be done for less money. So now there are executive actions that President Obama can take based on existing human trafficking law and some other stuff, but that's kind of where we are right now with that particular situation.
Do you think Republicans are sort of putting themselves in peril more and more on this issue? I mean, at some point they've got to stop bitching and complaining about the border and being willing to do something about it, right? We've seen the House won't even schedule a vote on the comprehensive immigration reform. Now they're opposing the supplemental. You know, is that enough? Right? Lack of
Yeah. This is something we've been wondering about a little bit, and the optics of this particular issue, given how many kids are involved, makes that a particularly important question. I mean, at some point, both parties have to be careful at this point. But I think especially Republicans that they're showing proper compassion for the kids involved in this situation who are kind of being forced into a bad situation by coming from an even worse situation. And so, yeah, that's an interesting question we've been thinking about. I mean, obviously that there's absolutely a degree of liability there, but it's really striking the extent to which President Obama has found himself in a bad place too. There's really nothing he can do on immigration that pleases that pleases everyone at this point. Any executive actions he takes at this point, rightly or wrongly, kind of feed into the Republican narrative of why they won't act on immigration reform, which is that they can't trust him to quote unquote enforce the existing law.
Right.
Whereas any deportation action he takes.
Yeah, just got to jump in because we're just up against the clock here. Yeah. We'll see how they play it out this week, and we appreciate the time. Thanks so much, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Scott Bland from the hotline, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Hey, at the top of the next hour, Boston Globe, Pulitzer Prize-winning sports reporter John Powers, and then Sam Baker from the National Journal here in studio to bring us some good news about the latest on Obamacare. And then a little bit later in the program, Olivier Knox coming in from Yahoo News as a friend of Bill. Monday morning, off we go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, what do you say? It's Monday morning, and welcome to the Bill Press Show. This Monday, July 14, Bastille Day. How about it? Another day to celebrate, and a lot of celebrating after the big World Cup game yesterday. Hope you had a great weekend. We're able to kick back, relax, and watch a lot of World Cup Saturday. Netherlands defeating Brazil. Brazil, host country, coming in fourth. They weren't happy with that at all. And then Sunday's game, the big game yesterday, the championship game with Angela Merkel. They're in the stadium watching Germany defeat Argentina 1-0. It was a great game, of course, went into overtime. First time ever that a European team has crossed the Atlantic and brought the World Cup home. A game watched by an estimated over 1 billion people. 1 billion people worldwide who said soccer isn't a great spectator sport. Here in Washington, Congress comes back in town this week. The big agenda item, of course, remains the border. President Obama's request for $3.7 billion in supplemental funding to deal with problems at the border. Republicans having a harder and harder time trying to figure out what to do with this. They cannot continue to attack President Obama for doing nothing about the border and then refuse to give him the resources necessary to fix the problem. A lot of buzz this morning about Elizabeth Warren hitting the campaign trail. She says she's not a candidate in 2016, but she's running around the country supporting candidates, raising money for candidates. It certainly looks like she might be thinking about something in 2016. And big news for Cleveland. Yeah, they got the Republican convention in 2016. So what? The big news is LeBron James is coming home, and Cleveland has forgiven him for abandoning them a couple of years ago. All of that coming up on today's Bill Press Show. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
And 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Germany over Argentina. What a great game yesterday. 1-0 is how it ended up. The new world champions. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning, July 14. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us as we boom out to you all across this great land of ours from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, coming to you live on the TuneIn app. It's free. Download it. Tune in and then go to the Progressive Voices channel. That's where you'll find us. Live, coming to you live on Free Speech TV. If you've got a satellite dish, we are there with you on DirecTV and worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Whether you're listening or watching, we welcome you to the program this morning. The Bill Press Show. We'll tell you what's going on and then open up the phones, give you a chance to tell us what you think about it all, what it means to you and to your family, to your community. You can do so, of course, by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or by sending us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And here on a Monday morning, almost the entire team assembled this morning. Peter Ogburn has got a couple of days off. Lisa Murphy running the board this morning.
Hey, good morning.
And Alicia Cruz standing by to take your calls again. She's back from a week's vacation. Alicia, good to have you back with us. Calls at 866-55-PRESS. And look who's back today, our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. It's been gone so long, some of you may have forgotten what he looks like. There he is, Cyprian Bolding. keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV.
He survived Orlando after all. He survived Orlando after all.
I know. He went to Orlando and then got lost in the black hole down there. I thought we'd never see him again. How about it? Got a lot coming up today. Before we get into the top of the hour here, Seth Meyers has announced a big news that he will be the next host of the Emmys. I'm sure will do a great job. And he said yesterday, he talked about it Friday night on his show, this is a challenge for any host of the Emmys.
Having been a nominee and a guest of the Emmys in the audience, that first 10 minutes is the best time to get the audience to laugh, because as the night progresses, more and more people are disappointed.
Yeah, just like the Oscars. Yeah, you got them all hopeful there in the first 10 minutes. That's the time to have a lot of fun with them. We start off the hour here with John Powers from the Boston Globe. A little bit later, Sam Baker from the National Journal will be joining us, and then Olivier Knox here as a friend of Bill. And let's start out, again, we're going to start out talking about the World Cup. I want to introduce John Powers by playing a little clip yesterday from JP Della Camera on ESPN Radio. Here is the big moment, 113 minutes into the match yesterday.
Running it down the left sideline. Plays it across to the box by Götze, and Götze scored on the left foot, beating the goalkeeper who's left. Germany is leading in the game in the 113th minute. Germany has one hand on the trophy, but there's still time left.
Not enough time for Argentina. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, sports reporter for the Boston Globe. Joining us on our news line this morning, John Powers. Hey, John, that was a hell of a game yesterday, right?
It was amazing. I think it was a fitting end to a wonderful tournament, and I think that the best team won. I mean, if you look end to end from the tournament, the Germans were dominant, and I think it was a wonderful goal scored, and again, scored by two reserves. The man who set up the goal and the man who scored it were both guys that began the game on the bench.
It really gave you a sense of the depth of the German bench, right, when the two reserves came in and scored.
Oh, it did. And I think that's one thing, is that this German team has been basically 14 years in the making. They had a terrible European Championships in the year 2000. They decided they're going to go from youth development all the way up, and this is what you saw. I mean, they were second place in 2002. They were third place in the last two cups, and this is finally their time.
You also have to hand it to the Argentinians, don't you? I mean, their defense was remarkable yesterday, I thought.
It was, and I think one of the things that had hurt Argentina, they had a midfielder, Angel Di Maria, who was a great attacker. He always helped Lionel Messi attack. He missed the last two matches. He had a thigh injury. It wasn't quite the same team, but they fought hard. It was a wonderful team to watch. And again, what was interesting, no European team had ever won the tournament in the Americas, North or South America, ever until yesterday.
What happened to Messi with that one shot where he was like a couple of yards offside almost?
Yeah, I think that was their problem, is that they had two goals that appeared to be scored, or at least pretty close, that were offside. Messi missed a great chance right after halftime that normally he would make, that
header,
quick cut to the far side.
Yeah,
but he was just off target for the whole tournament. Very, very strong early on, and if you looked at the final couple matches, he just wasn't the player that he had been very often for his club.
So do you think that this question always comes up every World Cup, right? Whether or not this will make any difference in the acceptance or the popularity of soccer here in the United States? What do you think?
I think certainly what this tournament did, it got the average fan a lot more interested than you normally see. You go into bar rooms, or you just go into places where
everywhere
we congregate, and you actually heard soccer talk.
Yeah,
it was reasonably well informed. You always have people who don't like it, and one thing that people talk about, and it's true, there's so much flopping and diving and acting and all that, and I hate every match is 0-0 and all this. But you look at the excitement, for example, cities like Boston, they had viewing parties in City Hall Plaza, and this was all over America, and not just when the Americans played.
Mm-hmm.
So Is this going to mean that there'll be this enormous upswell for MLS soccer? But no. But I think each time we see this, there is more understanding, acceptance, interest in the sport, certainly in the World Cup. I mean, one thing the Americans love is the big thing.
Yeah.
Especially if the Americans are involved in it and doing pretty well. I mean, that was kind of overlooked. The Americans had a pretty good tournament. Everyone thought that they would be last in their group.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, they played very, very well and got everybody excited. And you say Tim Howard, people know who that is now.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big sports fan generally, but I must say I just love watching soccer. One of the reasons is because it's nonstop, it's intense, it's exciting. There's none of the. There may be some drama with all the falling and everything, but I'd rather see that than the constant commercials, for ED pills or new cars even or whatever,
That's right. Well, plus too, it's interesting. You can only use 3 substitutes. So you really have to be careful as to when you want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
For example, it was noted if you look at who they brought in, the winning goal was scored by a guy that came in the 88th minute. So I think one thing that really attracts people to the tournament, it's such an ongoing procedure. You have to qualify. There's some doubt about that. Who'll be in the draw? Who are we going to get? How the tournament, it lasts for a whole month. So there is this build-up that you don't see in a sport like the Super Bowl or the World Series, where it takes a couple of years to determine and suddenly comes down to one match.
John Power is with us from the Boston Globe. You can follow him, of course, at bostonglobe.com. I do have to ask you this. I just find this question intriguing. And the bar where I was yesterday, everybody was asking the same question. So, John, when you see the ref talking to the German player and the Argentinian players at the same time, discussing some call, what language are they speaking?
They're speaking English, usually.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. One thing that I have noticed...
I figured it had to be English. What other language would they have in common, right? But go ahead, sorry.
And especially these days, I've rarely been to a country recently where everybody under 30 doesn't speak English. Almost everyone does. And, of course, many of these players play in England or have played in England.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Germans certainly speak English. Many of the Argentines do, because Argentina doesn't have a great domestic league, so a lot of their guys play in Europe. For example, I was interviewing the great Brazilian player Pelé. Speaks wonderful English, fantastic.
Really?
So I think, So English has become the de facto language of soccer.
And the other thing I must say, I didn't like them in the beginning, but who are these two guys, the two Brits, the ESPN commentators? I really got to really enjoy them and appreciate them. What was your take?
Yeah, well, I think, what's interesting is soccer really is a talking language. People argue about it. People have very strong opinions, and the English especially. I mean, they basically invented the game, at least the game as it is played now. They've only won one World Cup, so there's a sort of tartness to everything that they say. Anytime I can listen to an English broadcast, I always do.
Yeah. No, I thought they were very good, and they really know these two guys. I don't even know their names, but they really know the game, right?
Yep.
Know the players, and I just thought brought a lot to the game in terms of watching it. Now, the other big sports news, of course, is LeBron. He's coming home. Yeah, we here discussing this on Thursday and Friday on our program. Everybody said, "Oh, there's no way he's going to leave Miami. He's just going through the motions here just to get some publicity or something." Were you surprised by his decision, and what does it mean?
I think part of it was he had accomplished pretty much what he could in Miami. He wasn't happy, I'm sure, with the response he got when he left Cleveland the first time, but he's coming back to a much better team now than the one he left. And of course, one reason why it is a better team is when he left, that team just went south, so they've been getting very good draft picks. And I think he would like to be remembered in Ohio. He is an Ohio kid. It's someone that, they haven't won anything there since 1964. We're being spoiled up there in Boston. We have, almost every year, a duck boat parade. And they're always talking about, the mayor, has just have the duck boats for another celebration. whether it's the Red Sox or the Patriots or the Bruins or the Celtics.
Yeah.
They are starved for a winner in Northeast Ohio. And I think, that said, he's only coming back on a 2-year contract. So I think his sense is that there's a very small window to win there, and this might be a good time to go home.
Did we go home and then leave again? Oh, my God.
Of course. or he just may decide that this is enough.
Well, was it the love for his hometown or the lure of the dollar that brought him back?
Oh, I think the lure of the dollar certainly helped. But I think also, he was vilified as a traitor when he.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And I think no one wants to go back home and have that be your legacy. I mean, it's almost the response you get in Boston when you go and you play for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Right. Lorraine Boggs, Roger Clemens, Sonny Damon get booed when they come home. So I think there were numbers. There was a possibility of winning a title, being an elder statesman for that team, if you will, making some good money.
Right.
And he has done what they brought him to Miami to do. And I think he's ready for his next chapter.
Now, I've been asked that along the lines of this, that I have to get your comments on Paul Pierce. Our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, pointed out to me that Paul Pierce, who went from the Celtics to Brooklyn, now going to the Wizards, is he considered a traitor in Boston?
No, I don't think so. What's interesting is if you have done your best in Boston, if you have won a title, and especially if they decide that they are going to be breaking up the team, that's not your problem. I remember when Ray Bork, who was the Bruins captain for years and years, and they weren't very good, went out to Colorado, won a Stanley Cup, and brought it back to City Hall so people could see what it looked like again. And the feeling was, well, Ray, good for you. You were a great player, a great captain here. God love you. So, I mean, everyone up here expects that his number will be retired in Boston when he finally starts playing.
Mm-hmm.
So he isn't viewed as a traitor. Ray Allen, to a degree, was when he went to Miami. There was a sense that he probably should have stuck around, that they're going to offer him some money. So much depends on the terms under which you leave.
Yeah, got it.
I mean, one thing, they will like Paul there. He is a class act, a great team leader. He will play whatever role you want him to. He'll be well received.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, John, really good talking with you this morning. Thank you so much, and
thank you.
Great sharing the excitement of the World Cup. Again, you can follow the great John Powers at bostonglobe.com. Thanks, John. Talk to you again.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, Sam Baker from the National Journal covers healthcare for the National Journal with the latest on Obamacare coming up in the next half hour. With Congress coming back today, the focus is going to continue to be on immigration, the problems at the southern border, and what, if anything, Congress will do about it. As you know, President Obama has requested $3.7 billion in a supplemental appropriation to deal particularly with the crisis caused by a flood of young children unaccompanied by their parents coming on their own. Amazing that they would even make that journey. Kids as young as 6, 7 years old, all the way up to teens. 52,000 of them so far. What to do about it is the question. John McCain says he's got the simple answer.
The only way that this is going to stop is if plane loads of children arrive back in the countries in Central America that they came from, and their parents see the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that they have paid to the human traffickers is wasted.
As usual, John McCain is talking through his hat. Most of the kids who come across the border, the White House has told us, will in fact be sent back to their home country. But first, according to the law of the land, the law in the United States today, according to a law which George Bush signed and John McCain voted for, before these kids are sent back, they have to be kept in a detention center and then given a chance to appear before a deportation judge. And that process takes time, and that process takes money, and that's what President Obama is asking Congress for, money to hire more judges and to make sure we've got the facilities to hold on to these kids and take care of them. These are children. We've got a humane responsibility to do that. President asking the sufficient money to deal with that problem, and yet people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham and John Boehner are standing in the way of the president because, I mean, let's just be honest. They don't want a solution. They just want to bitch about it. They just want to complain about it. They just want to talk about it. They want an issue. They want a campaign on the southern border. The last thing they want to do is fix the problem, which is why John Boehner hasn't even scheduled a vote on comprehensive immigration reform. That's where things stand with immigration. We'll find out the latest on Obamacare from Sam Baker next. Stay with us on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour now, it is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill. Just down the street from the United States Capitol building, we're brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard, the colorful, articulate, great labor leader, Leo Gerard, leading the United Steelworkers, the USW, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. The website, usw.org, where you can find out more about their good work. Congress coming back in session this week. And one of the things the Republicans in the House are expected to vote on is to authorize the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, to file a lawsuit, as we've discussed in the past week, a lawsuit against the President of the United States for allegedly exceeding his executive authority, particularly in the issue in the area of health care. Sam Baker is healthcare reporter for the National Journal, in studio with us this bright and early this Monday morning. Hello, Sam. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
It's nice that you're in the neighborhood, so it's easier for you to come by.
Yes. Yes.
So when Boehner says he wants to sue the president for basically breaking law, I guess that's what you sue people for, exceeding his authority on health care. How so? I mean, has he told us specifically how President Obama has gone too far in terms of carrying out Obamacare?
He has, and somewhat ironically, it is by delaying the enforcement of the employer mandate. That's the provision that requires...
Which Republicans didn't like in the first place.
Exactly, and have voted to repeal outright, along with the whole law. That was somewhere in those 50, however many votes, I think. So the president, or the Treasury Department specifically, that's sort of an overlooked piece here. At some point, Obama's going to have to sue the Treasury, or Boehner's going to have to sue the Treasury Department, which is a little bit less sexy than suing the president. But but Treasury has delayed the employer mandate twice for a total of 2 years for some businesses and a year and sort of an exception for some other businesses. And Boehner has said that this lawsuit is going to say, you know, the House of Representatives wrote a law that said this tax penalty kicks in on January 1st, 2014, and you didn't do it.
So they tried to repeal it. They were unsuccessful in repealing it. President Obama delayed it.
Right.
And they'll sue him for delaying it.
Right.
Why won't a judge just laugh out loud when this lawsuit, if that's what the lawsuit is all about, comes into court?
A judge very well may. One of the big issues when you talk to some legal experts about this, it's very, very difficult for a member of the House to sue the president. The Supreme Court has said in the past, or the courts have said in the past, that individual members actually don't have standing to sue. That if you're just one member of Congress and you sue the president because they did something you don't like, that's a political disagreement. That there's a very clear structure for the president and the Congress to have political disagreements. But so it's very difficult for members of Congress to show an injury. You have to, in order to sue someone, you have to show that you were injured by something that they did and that there's something the court can do about it. And so they're going down a legal strategy here that was sort of devised to get around all of the impediments that the courts have thrown up so far. The House might have standing where an individual member could not. But it's sort of weaving through a very narrow path between a lot of obstacles that have been set up so far. So it won't directly not work, but the odds, they're taking a lot of risks trying to get this into the
So the legal experts that you've talked to are skeptical about this could ever get off the ground.
Yeah, even a lot of conservatives say, on the one hand, no, just as a matter of legal practice, I don't think they have standing. And some are saying, no, I'm not so sure that they should have standing. I'm not so sure I want the House to be able to sue the president when the president just does something. Think of it, what if it was a Democratic House and a Republican president slow-walking Obamacare? who is upset would be, the tables would be turned there, but you have to think about it in those terms, when you ask yourself, should the president be able to do this?
From a practical point of view, how long would it take for this lawsuit?
That is a very good question, because it would almost certainly take until the employer mandate is in effect. So maybe a court could say, no, actually employers have to go back and pay that penalty. Mm-hmm. But they probably wouldn't actually be able to pay the penalty because record-keeping requirements have been waived along with it. So really the biggest thing you can see a court doing is saying, all right, the employer mandate has to take effect, but by that time it already will be in effect, which is another reason why this might not make it very far down the process.
But even to get to that decision, that's my question.
Right.
You can file a lawsuit today. It doesn't mean you're in the court tomorrow.
Right. And I'm not sure exactly how long the first
And I guess the big question, will President Obama still be President Obama by the time this lawsuit gets its first hearing?
I think by the time it gets its first hearing, I think so. But it only takes, even if it took a year, you'd be into 2016. So the mandate would be in effect and he would be still president, but not for very long, obviously.
And the people you've talked to, any of them give you an estimate of how much this is going to cost?
No, but that's another good question. And you saw that controversy. The organization that they're doing this through is called the Bipartisan Legal Advisory Group, or the BLAG, which has got to be the worst acronym in Washington. The BLAG.
The Bipartisan Legal Advisory Group?
Yes.
That's actually exist in the House?
Yes. It is not really very bipartisan, as you can deduce from the fact that it was suing over Obamacare.
Do they have a blog?
The BLAG blog?
The BLAG blog?
Oh, they should. They should.
Let's start it right now.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, they should have a blog. Absolutely. Terrible acronym. But they also defended DOMA in the courts. It was the BLAG that went all the way to the Supreme Court defending DOMA. Nancy Pelosi was very critical of John Boehner for spending taxpayer money on that. This sort of goes even further, right? Because normally it's the Justice Department's job to defend the laws, but they said, we're not going to defend DOMA, and the Supreme Court said, well, somebody has to come in here and defend DOMA, and so
John Boehner says,
said,
I'll do
well,
it.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
But this is Boehner starting the lawsuit from scratch rather than stepping in. So it will, A, cost more, and B, you'll have more certainly sustained criticism from Democrats of using public funds for this.
And these are taxpayer funds. I mean, basically, you and I and all of our listeners and viewers are going to pay for this lawsuit.
Yep. The BLAG exists to represent the House as an institution. So if you're not Representative so-and-so or even Nancy Pelosi or John Boehner, when the House needs to be involved, it works through the BLAG.
Now, Boehner last weekend, we talked about this on the show last week. You weren't with us, but he went on CNN's website, of course, wrote his own op-ed piece saying why we must sue the President of the United States, right? Why is he doing this?
Because
he's got to know. He's got to know that this lawsuit has a snowball's chance in hell, and that it's going to cost a lot of money. And he was criticized both from the right and the left for doing so.
Well, he's been criticized from the right because a lot of people on the right want him to impeach the president.
Right. Doesn't go far enough.
Right. Which is always what the right will say about whatever Boehner wants to do, I think. So this for him is sort of a political middle ground. They have this legal strategy, I guess, that they've been wanting to test out. That's why you saw him say, I'm going to sue the president, and then figure out what for. Mm-hmm. Because a couple of conservative lawyers who are good, who figured out the way to get the individual mandate all the way to the Supreme Court. So, whether you agree with what they're doing or not, they're tactically good at it, have figured out this strategy. Obamacare obviously rallies and riles up the conservative base. So if you're Boehner and you know that it would be embarrassing to try to impeach Obama, which it would, maybe this is the Less embarrassing.
So
route.
even with this one, chances are that they'll go ahead with this. They'll file the lawsuit. They'll make a big deal of it until the midterm elections, and then they'll just drop the whole thing.
If a court doesn't drop it for them.
Oh,
which
right.
It very well may. Yeah.
Which it could even before that.
Yeah.
Which would be hugely embarrassing for them.
Yeah, I mean, a court probably wouldn't get to it before the midterms, I wouldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
They might want to stagger their filings just to eliminate that possibility.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the question remains, while John Boehner is threatening, and he's going to go through with it, his lawsuit against the president for exceeding his authority on Obamacare. How is Obamacare doing around the land? Sam Baker is here from the National Journal. We'll get into that. Take your calls when we come back at 866-55-PRESS on a Monday morning, July 14.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes now before the top of the hour. Olivier Knox will be here as a friend of Bill from Yahoo News for the next hour. Right now we're into the threatened Boehner lawsuit against President Obama over health care with Sam Baker from the National Journal. Whatever Boehner thinks about Obamacare, there's been some good news about it lately, Sam. I saw the Commonwealth Fund reporting last week that 74% of newly insured Republicans are happy with the plans they bought. So overall, right, now that they fixed the problems with the website, things seem to be moving along.
Yes, absolutely. Things have definitely stabilized. A ton of people signed up at the end of the open enrollment period. People are still signing up as they sort of become eligible through changes in their life circumstance. And, I think that statistic that you mentioned, Republicans are satisfied with their coverage, really gets to why the White House and Democrats felt like, let's just get this stood up. Maybe we're not going to win a political, sort of messaging battle about it until it's actually in effect. But health insurance is a personal decision and a personal need before it's a political one by miles. And so it's probably not hugely surprising that many people are happy with their coverage. And some people aren't. Some people truly lost their doctor. That could have happened to them any old day with any insurance plan, but people blame it on Obamacare. But if people are pretty satisfied, that's really good news for the law. It's good news for Democrats, and it makes it harder and harder and harder for Republicans to try to repeal it or chip away at it.
Well, yeah, and now they don't even talk about repealing or replacing. They haven't talked replacing for a long time.
Yeah.
But you don't hear the repeal talk. You don't hear the replace talk. Now you hear the sue talk or the impeach talk, right?
Right.
But if more people are happy and more people have signed up, that means fewer people, the number of uninsured in this country, I guess.
Yes.
I mean, we're not down to zero, but we are.
Well, and we weren't trying to get down to zero at this point. Even the Affordable Care Act didn't try to get down to zero ever, and not in the first year. But it is working at that goal. There were several reports out last week. Probably the best one was a new Gallup survey. They've been asking Americans whether they have insurance or not. The number of uninsured people is at its lowest point since Gallup started asking. So more people have insurance or fewer people lack insurance. Part of that is the recovering economy. As more people get jobs, more people get job-based insurance. But you also see in some other surveys a big gap between a big gap in the uninsured rate in the states that took the Medicaid expansion and the states that didn't. So it's not just the improving economy. Clearly, the Affordable Care Act, both through private insurance and through Medicaid, is helping a whole lot of people get access to coverage.
And the number of insured, it shows here 9.5 million people have gained coverage in the last year. But that'd be significantly higher if there weren't, 17 states or something who have rejected Medicaid
I think more than that. I think it's close. It's not, I think it's over 20.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we crossed the halfway mark of states that took it. But yeah, and there
whatever
are still,
that number, there are millions of people in those states who would qualify, except their red state Republican governors say we won't accept their program.
Yeah, and there's some bigs. I mean, Texas alone, if Texas came in, that would boost the number of insured people in Texas and nationwide just by a huge amount.
All right. Final point on the on Obamacare that's been talked about lately is I've seen references to what they're calling the September surprise.
Right.
That the whole thing's going to fall apart, critics are now saying, because in September the insurance company is going to raise their rates like they always do, and that's just going to be the end of Obamacare. What can we expect?
That end keeps getting pushed back later and later and later, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
A couple of things have supposed to have been the end of Obamacare.
I know.
That's a concern. If you were in the White House, you should be cognizant of that, I think. That rate filings are going to come out a little bit before the next enrollment period starts. It's been pushed to after the midterms because of this exact consideration. But not all of the states wait that long to release their premiums. Some of them have started to release them already. We have a pretty good handful of data. Some plans, premiums are increasing, but premiums increase every year. So you've got to look at, how much are they going up? A lot of states, it's really not that bad. Some plans are filing low double-digit increases, 10 to maybe 15% for one plan in a state. But another plan in a state is new and is coming in with a lower premium than anybody else. Another plan in the same state, this is happening in Washington, is cutting its premiums substantially. Maybe they way overbid this year.
Right.
So one of the questions we have about the next open enrollment is how much people will change their plan. Will you just stick with what you have, and if the price goes up, you'll pay it? Or will you go back on the marketplace and shop around again? To the extent that people are willing to shop around again, in almost all states, they will probably be able to get a pretty similar plan and insulate themselves from those premium increases. So premiums will go up on average. That is the story of premiums every year. Like all products, they get more expensive over time. But so far, we haven't seen these giant increases that people have warned about.
But also, these are private companies. This is private insurance, and so they're just because of competition from other companies, there's going to be some pressure to keep rates as low as possible in order to sell more plans, right?
That's right. And one of the really encouraging things that the White House is seeing is a lot of companies that sat out the first year, big insurance companies, and insurance companies that are big in this market now, the individual market, and that have really sophisticated marketing operations, good advertisements, and know how to attract young, healthy customers. A lot of them, are a couple of big ones, sat out the first year and said, let's just see how this, and are now jumping in more and more states.
Good. So Obamacare, it is alive, it is well, it is working, it is more popular than ever before. And so, as the president says, sue me. Let John Boehner sue. Hey, Sam, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Sam Baker from the National Journal will be back and tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, wrapping up our second hour here soon, but we're just getting started on this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. Hour number 3 coming up. And we'll lose you on Free Speech TV. Sorry about that. Their decision, not ours. But you can join us and continue to watch on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. In the next hour, Olivier Knox from Yahoo News, covers Yahoo for the White House, will be here as a friend of Bill the entire hour. And we'll talk to the Director of Immigration Policy for the Great Center for American Progress. All of that coming up. Hour number 3. Stay with us.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years.
It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years, I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
is the Bill Press Show.
On the president's schedule today, he and the vice president have lunch after they get their daily briefing this afternoon. He's going to participate in an ambassador credentialing program in the Oval Office where new ambassadors to the United States present their credentials to the president. Then he meets with senior advisors this afternoon, and this evening the president will host, as he does every year, an iftar dinner in the state dining room at the White House. We reporters will be meeting with Josh Earnest for our daily briefing at 1 o'clock. Olivier Knox next as a friend of Bill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. There was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The new Weltmeister. It is Germany over Argentina 1-0. Hope you got to watch the game yesterday. Very, very exciting. And you got to say the best team won. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you on a Monday morning, July 14. It's the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., on our studio right in the heart of the action on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Booming out to you this Monday morning, July 14, on your local progressive talk radio station and on our worldwide video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And for our worldwide audience, we have a worldwide journalist here joining us this morning, Olivier Knox from Yahoo News, covers the White House for Yahoo News, a good friend and a colleague down at the White House briefing room. Hello, Olivier. Good morning.
Hi, Bill. I don't think I'm not on to you. I realize this is just tokenism. You get the French guy in on Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
I see what you're doing.
I see what you're doing. Bastille Day. That's it. Exactly. I have a French friend whose birthday is actually on Bastille Day. Yeah, I emailed him yesterday in advance of that. Yeah. Did you watch any of the game yesterday?
I did. I was working most of the day on a complicated story, but I could look up periodically.
You're still sore at Germany because they knocked France out early on. I guess.
Although the French-Germany match I thought was kind of sluggish and not that interesting. And frankly, the French team had a lot of opportunities and they just didn't convert them. So I felt okay about that. And then I felt better as Germany did better. So thinking like, well, yeah, all right, at least at least it wasn't 7-1 and
yeah,
and they looked a lot better. Actually, yesterday reminded me a lot of the French match. where the Argentines had a lot of opportunities and just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, the Argentines, they really put up I thought, very impressive defense against, unlike the Brazilians, against the Germans. But and then they had the one offsides goal by Messi,
right,
which could have turned the tide.
Sure,
but the Germans, what precision and what control. Yeah. Here's a question I have for you as one who covers the White House. So Angela Merkel went all the way from Germany to Brazil for that final match. If the U.S. had been in the finals, would Barack Obama gone to Brazil?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, we know that Vice President Biden went down to watch the U.S. team play an early round play. So I suppose it's possible. That would have been kind of an amazing moment. Actually, I really hope that actually becomes a real question the next time around. I thought the U.S. team looked really good.
Yes.
Definitely the most improved team. They looked really good, and I really, really hope, I'm rooting for them to do a lot better.
I'm reminded of when he went to, was it Brussels to get the Olympics, or to, remember, and he, early on. And,
right.
And didn't come home with didn't bring the bacon home.
You know, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. The Olympics are kind of a money suck, frankly. I'm not sure that it's not that bad that Chicago didn't get the Olympics. But if you
go all that distance to Brazil, I mean, the chances are you could win or you could lose. You know what I mean?
Sure. I liked watching Angela Merkel 2 seats down from Vladimir Putin. That was nice. I assume he was rooting for East Germany to win. But yeah, I mean, sure. You know, there's a chance he would have gone, or I think more likely he would have sent Joe Biden, who after all went down to Brazil as part of his tour, a tour through Central and South America, and he went to see the early round play. So. Yeah.
Good to have you with us this morning with our team. Peter Ogburn's got a couple of days off out in San Diego, actually. Lisa Murphy here.
Hey, good morning.
Running the show. Hi, with Alicia Cruz. She's back from vacation, covering the phones. You can give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Balding is back. You never thought he was coming back. He's back today as our videographer on our video stream worldwide at youtube.com. Of course, the big youtube.com/TawkrTV, the big sports news, a World Cup. Forget the World Cup. It's LeBron James, who actually went to the World Cup. He was as big a star down there as Merkel and Putin, I think. And LeBron James telling us over the weekend in his first interview why he's going back to Cleveland.
I think it's an exciting time for myself. It's a place that I'll, be home, be able to represent for the family and my friends and those fans. And it gives me an opportunity to reunite with one of my favorite teammates, Anderson Varejão, a Brazilian native. So, it's going to be unbelievable, man, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
You don't know whether it was the lure of the hometown or the lure of the hometown dollars that brought him back, but
Yeah, I think we're on a trajectory here where at some point they're just going to rename every team the Transient Millionaires, right? It's going to have to happen because. Yeah. But I mean, I have a lot of friends from Cleveland who are very, very excited about this.
So which was a bigger deal, getting the Republican convention or getting LeBron James?
Gosh, I would love to see a serious economic impact report. Describing the different, describing the impact on Cleveland's economy. I think from a reputational standpoint, I have to say more people are paying attention to LeBron James than to where either party is hosting their convention.
Is hosting their convention, yeah, I believe so. So Olivier Knox here with us this entire hour as a friend. Bill will be joined by the Director of Immigration Policy for the Center for American Progress, Marshall Fitz, at the half hour. Olivier, there's so much to talk about that's been going on. I don't know whether you caught this story, but the president was out in Texas last week. I want to ask you about the photo op. Mm-hmm. But he went to this Franklin barbecue. This was a very funny thing where a guy, so the employees got a rumor that the president might be stopping in. They didn't all believe him. And then the Secret Service arrived. So this one guy working behind the counter, his name is Daniel Rugg Webb. And he, like a lot of actors or comedians, this is his day job, but his night thing is he's a stand-up comic kind of thing. So he figures, I got to do something. So the president's coming along. He's waiting behind the counter. The president walks up, and this guy slams his hand on the counter and says, "Equal rights for gay people." This reported here on BuzzFeed. And the president says to him, "Are you gay?" And the guy says, "Only when I'm having sex."
Wow. I'm not sure he's going to get an invitation to play any state dinners anytime soon.
No, but can you imagine an exchange like that with the President of the United States? I was also surprised that Obama's just asking him bluntly, directly, "Oh, are you gay?" You know,
it's a great. Yeah, I mean, and you can have one of those only in America moments, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is what we do here.
The president, he said, laughed. Then he realized there was a group of children nearby, and he said, "Not in front of the kids." So, an unusual exchange.
Very unusual,
to say the least. This was a public event. You have written recently about the president's not so public. There are things on the schedule that you and I, who get his schedule minute by minute, never know about.
Yeah, there are actually I would say that most of the events on the president's daily schedule escape our notice. Maybe not most of the important events, really, really important events. But yes, I did a deep dive into the president's secret schedule, the one that people get, senior aides in the West Wing get, that we will never see. Although I did get my grubby little mitts on one. And
Did you?
I
So
did.
that is circulated. It's a different schedule, right?
It is. It's actually a thick sheaf of 8.5 by 11 paper called the Presidential Briefing Book, and it has his time broken down mostly in 5-minute increments. So a meeting starts at the 0 and ends at the 5, for example.
Yeah.
It's not a total. It's not like minute by minute. It doesn't actually say like, 8:02 walks from here to here. It'll take 90 seconds. But it is very, very precise, and a lot of the things that we report on, I realized are not necessarily what happens. And in fact, we got a really good illustration of that on Friday, because on Friday, the White House made public some of the official photographers' pictures. And we learned that there was a secret May 1st meeting between President Obama and former President Clinton. And that's how we found out.
Whoa. I was thinking of the lunch a couple of weeks ago with Hillary Clinton.
Right. No, this is one that didn't get out. They tried to suppress the Obama Hillary Clinton lunch. We found out thanks to People magazine.
Yes.
This was actually successfully withheld from us. But it's a really interesting document. I mean, the level of detail is completely crazy. I mean, I wrote a sort of a mock version of it that holds true in terms of the formatting and the kinds of entries. But let me give you just one example. As a sports fan, you're going to like this. When he does a meet and greet with a championship sports team, it's so detailed that his schedule tells him how many players will be present versus how many front office people will be present. It's extremely detailed.
Yeah. Now, why would they keep a meeting between Obama and Clinton secret?
Well, remember that the public schedule is what the White House wants the world to know the president is doing. Private schedule, as I reported, is actually how they manage their single most valuable resource, which is the president's time. And everybody I talked to said that. Like, look, no, this is the thing. FaceTime with the president, phone time with the president. Those are the most valuable assets we have. So they've got to. It better reflects their priorities and the kinds of crises they're dealing with than the public schedule does frequently. One reason for keeping that off the list might be that they didn't want that to become the story of the day, as it inevitably would have.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm going to argue that they should have disclosed that because it's a newsworthy event.
Right. But you could see, they would say, I guess, that then people, you and I, people like us would say, what did they talk about? Why is he there? What does this mean? Does this mean he's already endorsed Hillary? I mean, on and on. And I guess they just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's just a way of escaping scrutiny. I mean, it's it's not.
Amen.
They can put whatever lipstick they want on that pig, but the fact of the matter is that it's about avoiding scrutiny. Sometimes it's more or less legitimate. I would argue that in this case, it's less legitimate. I think we should have known about it. Obviously, we would have pushed for, access to part of that meeting.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to play down the fact that we are a pain in the tuchus. But no, we would have pushed for access, obviously, and so I understand why they wouldn't want that headache. But it's too bad that was not put on the schedule.
Now, in terms of photo ops, that would have been a great photo op.
Absolutely.
There was a photo op the president desperately wanted to avoid last week, which was going to the border.
Yeah.
Why? And he didn't go.
He didn't go.
Despite a lot of pressure from some Democrats.
Well, let me just back up just one step. One thing that I thought the White House did not do correctly was they should have always said, going to the border is kind of a red herring. Having a border-themed event, because you can imagine him at the border, on the binoculars,
scanning the border, and that's a totally empty photo op. You know as well as I do that when they said he wasn't going to the border, an army of Republican communicators yelled out in anguish, crumpled up the paper that denounced his photo op immigration policy, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I talked to somebody in Congress, though, who said, look, there's this one particular photo op that they really didn't want to have. They really didn't want to have him go to one of those facilities where they've got these thousands of kids, of teens or even younger kids. Why? Because the images that would have gone back to Central and Latin America would have sent the message, if your child comes here illegally, the president of the United States himself will welcome you. And that's not an idle thing. If you travel through Mexico, through Central America, you see posters with Obama's face on them saying, I won't deport your kids. I mean, this is a real concern. Now, the person I talked to didn't have a lock on whether this was the White House's concern, but he said it was clearly a concern.
I could certainly see that too. You could, like the Pied Piper, right? There he is with the kids all around him. That photo would have been, and again, that would have been used against him.
Right.
And it would have been used to encourage more illegal immigration south of the border.
But I am surprised they didn't make a bigger deal out of border-themed events until really late in this process. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, no, we're not worried about the optics. Well, how about, we're focused on this, and while we're in Texas, we're going to sit down with, some of the relevant authorities.
Yeah, that meeting, as you know, as we know, was sort of added at the last minute, and then Rick Perry invited at the very last minute.
Right.
This standoff now over the supplemental. I can't read it, whether it's going to be resolved, whether it's in the interest of both parties to resolve it, so there's some supplemental funding, or whether Republicans will just dig in their heels and President Obama stuck to executive actions. How do you read it?
I read it as a sort of a microcosm of the broader immigration debate that we've been having now for years. I mean, certainly throughout the Obama presidency. I can't say that I'm particularly optimistic about its prospects for passage. I think we've seen real resistance from a lot of conservatives.
The comprehensive bill or the supplemental?
I'm sorry, the SUP, the $4 billion temporary urgent money. I'm just not that optimistic about it. I think, for one thing, Congress is gone, right? So,
for all practical purposes.
So, how are they going to get this done? How are they going to get it through the committee process? How are they going to? I just don't see any window for that. And one thing, there's a body at, I believe it's Syracuse University, that tracks immigration court delays. We're looking at about 375,000 people who are in the system now, who are awaiting an immigration hearing. And the average wait time, when you're in the system, the average wait time to see an immigration judge is about 587 days.
Whoa. So these kids, now the 375 includes the 52,000 kids?
Yes.
Okay. So these kids could be, how long again?
587 days.
Which the last time I checked is about a year and a half, right?
Yeah,
these kids are going to be held in these detention centers for that long?
Well, potentially. I mean, it depends on whether they're matched with "quote unquote" family, friends, and the rest of it.
But
the supplemental has some money to try to expedite this stuff. But
it's crazy.
Without soapboxing on your show too much, so much of our politics boils down to the failures of deferred maintenance. All these broken systems that we really only pay attention to when they they go from cracked to shattered, and that's what's happening to the immigration system too. There's a lot of this stuff people aren't really paying attention. I think this week we'll probably see a lot more focus on the kids themselves, which might break the logjam possibly. But so much of this stuff, whether it's infrastructure or the immigration system or government IT, all the different things boil down to the same thing, that it's really hard to muster up political will to fix these things while the problem is relatively small.
Right. Olivier Knox here with us from Yahoo News with a big story this morning, which we'll get to next, about the big German spy scandal and what effect that is having on U.S.-German relations. Your calls always welcome at 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world. A public
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, at 27 minutes after the hour, Center for American Progress, Marshall Fitz joining us in the next half hour, us meaning me and Olivier Knox from Yahoo News. So, Olivier, what's the story on this your story on the German spy scandal?
Well, last week, as you know, Germany expelled the CIA station
Top
chief
CIA,
in Berlin
right.
In retaliation for the CIA's recruiting a German intelligence agent to sell them secrets. Turns out he may have been also selling them to the Russians. This guy appears to be equal opportunity. But the thing that touched off my story was a New York Times piece that said, well, the CIA let President Obama get on the phone with the German chancellor without telling him that this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece suggested that CIA Director John Brennan himself had known about this incident and had not told the president. And that got some angry responses from career people inside the intelligence community who reached out to me to say, no, you do not let him get away with this. That's, we're serious people. We didn't miss, it was this real argument against the White House thing. Like they were trying to pin this all on us. It's not all on us. And so I started digging into sort of the last 6 months of the relationship between the White House and the intelligence community and the Congress and the intelligence community. And frankly, it's a pretty bleak picture. Now, the relationships between Barack Obama and his CIA director, John Brennan, and his director of national intelligence, James Clapper, those relationships are okay. The real pushback is coming from career intelligence community people who've had it with Congress saying that they missed things that they didn't miss and who frankly have tense relations with the White House.
Yeah, wow. You can find that story on yahoonews.com. We'll be back and talk immigration.
This
the Center for American
is the
Progress.
Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show on this Monday morning, July 14. Coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you today by the American Federation of Teachers, the good men and women teachers of America, members of the AFT under President Randy Weingarten, making a difference in America's classrooms every day. You bet. And find out more about their good work at aft.org. The issue of the day is immigration reform. Olivier Knox covers the White House for Yahoo News. He and I pepper Josh Earnest with questions about that, and joining others, of course, just about every day. The White House is very involved. The Congress is very involved, and so are many outside organizations. Among the lead in those outside organizations, the Center for American Progress, Marshall Fitz, is Director of Immigration Policy for CAP, joining us in our in our studio this morning. Hey, Marshall, good to meet you. Good to see you.
Good to meet you, too, and thanks for having me.
Tell us, first of all, what is the situation at the border today in terms of security at the border? You hear all these complaints, that we've done nothing to secure the border. What's the truth?
Well, the proof is kind of in the pudding there, that nothing could be further from the truth that we've got border insecurity right now. We do have a humanitarian crisis at the border because we've got tens of thousands of kids who have showed up since the beginning of this fiscal year without parents, who are fleeing incredibly serious violence and who are incredibly vulnerable. The kids who are coming are younger than they've been in the past, and they tend to be girls more than boys than they have in the past. So increasing number of girls, in part because the girls and the younger kids are now being targeted more than they were in past years by the cartels, by the gangs in the Central American countries, the Northern Triangle, they call it Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. But why I said the proof is in the pudding is that all of these kids are being apprehended. Everyone who is coming is being put into the basically placed into the control and under the authority of the Border Patrol that we've got there. We do not have kind of large-scale incursions. Instead, we've got a humanitarian crisis.
These people, these kids, I guess, want to be apprehended.
Right.
Correct? From what I've seen. They're not trying to evade people in uniform. They're rushing to them.
Yeah. They're seeking safety. And many of them have traveled 2,000 miles. We've heard a lot of stories about how perilous that journey is. A lot of these kids are abused. Some of them, many of them die. Some of them are trafficked along the way. We don't know how many. We don't have great statistics on it. It's a horrible situation. We're talking about some of the most vulnerable people in the world making this type of trek, and they get to the border and they're like, please give me refuge.
Mm-hmm. Marshall, do we know whether these kids are being sent to the United States or whether they're being brought to the United States? In other words, it seems to me that the kinds of folks who could afford $3,000, $5,000, whatever the amount, the going rate is, it would be more likely to be people who are already here, who are working in sort of the gray economy in the United States and who are bringing their kids in. Do we know from a public policy standpoint whether they were just being sent off, packed off on a bus, or whether there's someone at this end to welcome them?
It's a great question, and we don't have very firm statistics on this. I think the best guess right now, this is based on kind of putting together scores of interviews from a number of different organizations, is that about 30% of them have a parent who is living here, who is living and working here. Most of them undocumented, not all of them, but most of them undocumented. Probably something more like 70 to 80% have some family member, a cousin, a brother, an uncle. But in terms of that kind of sending versus calling for, what we do know is that this increase over the last couple of years, in particular in the last 5 or 6 months, is a product of escalating violence, that the insecurity of these kids in their home countries is really driving this migration. It's not that all of a sudden the people, that 30% of parents that have been living here for, in many cases a decade, that they've all of a sudden at the same time decided, oh, let's just send for our kids.
Yeah.
It's that they're basically fleeing and they're going wherever they can. We've seen a 712% increase in asylum applications in all of the other countries, not the U.S. So in Panama, Nicaragua, the second poorest country in the world, I think, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Belize. They are leaving as opposed to coming. They're coming here like in every refugee situation. They come to where they know someone, to where they think they may be able to find some stability and safety.
Everybody has an answer, right? Everybody's got an idea of how to resolve this problem. Perhaps the most outspoken on this, a border state senator, Republican John McCain. Here is his answer, again expressed over the weekend. Lindsey Graham said the same thing.
The only way that this is going to stop is if plane loads of children arrive back in the countries in Central America that they came from, and their parents see the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that they have paid to the human traffickers is wasted.
So I have a couple of questions about that. Number one is, doesn't the law require that we treat them differently?
Right now it does. So you do run into this argument.
A law that John McCain voted for?
Yes, and that was signed by President George W. Bush.
Right, which says that if they're coming from Central America, you can't immediately
repatriate them.
Right.
That's right.
They at least have to go through a deportation
hearing. That's exactly right.
Now, Josh Earnest told us last week, you'll remember, I'm sure, Olivier, that most of these kids will be returned to their country of origin.
Yeah, right. The argument was that they're just not going to meet the threshold for that law. What happens then? What happens to those kids, and what happens to
that's the question.
as they get sent back? I mean, home makes it sound nice, but as they get repatriated,
to their home country.
Is there any reason to think that the cycle is just not going to continue or perpetuate itself?
It's kind of like saying, the house you're living in is burning down. You just need to suck it up and stay in that house. No, if the conditions are such that it is propelling them to flee, they're going to leave. They're going to keep going. They might not come here. That maybe they'll go to Mexico, they're almost all transiting through Mexico anyway. But maybe they'll go to try to seek refuge somewhere else. But it's an important, I think, point, because there is a distinction here between. No one is, at least not many people are arguing that all of these kids should be permitted to stay forever. What I'm arguing, and what I think many who are kind of trying to come up with a solution here are arguing, is that we just have to ensure that their claims for protection are being meaningfully heard. It's not to say that if they're found to not be deserving or meriting of protection under the TVP, the trafficking law, or under our asylum laws, then they're going to be returned. And hopefully we can find mechanisms to return them safely. And there are many groups that are doing work on the ground in those countries to try to receive these kids once they've been repatriated. In some countries like Honduras, there's very little infrastructure for that type of kind of receipt upon repatriation. In Guatemala, there are some more programs that are being stood up to try to do that, to address that. But Josh may be right that say only 40% of the kids earn some type of legal protection here. Well, are we going to sacrifice those 40%? Are we going to, as Governor O'Malley said, I think over the weekend, are we going to send them back to certain death just in order to show this deterrence that Senator McCain and Senator Graham were talking about? I understand their point. Their point is not invalid. It's because the system right now is broken in that people come, these kids spend sometimes 2 or 3 years in immigration proceedings. Right. That has to be that time frame has to be collapsed. But you can still have a full, meaningful adjudication in, say, 60 days, where you're not just and really testing whether these kids have been trafficked, whether these kids have been subject to persecution in their home country, without violating their their opportunity to be heard once they get here.
What age kids are we talking about?
So this is the thing. I mean, we're talking about kids who are as young as 3 years old. I mean, you're talking about 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds. It runs the gamut, but it's getting younger and younger.
They go to a hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, how can they make their case? Who makes their case for them?
And they're not entitled to legal counsel. They're not. They don't have a guardian ad litem. They don't have. So we've got friends who work at one of the kind of leading organizations that tries to provide legal representation for these kids is called Kids in Need of Defense Kind. And they tell stories about these, 5-year-olds who are standing in an immigration court before a judge in a black robe. They have no one speaking for them. Obviously, the judge is going to do their best to, understand and interpret the interests of the kid, but that's all you've got. And imagine and they don't speak the same language. It's a tragic situation.
You talked about accelerating the process down to 60 days. My national affairs colleague Liz Goodwin went down to Fort Sill last week, did a tour of some of the facilities where these kids are living now, and she reported back that that one of the real hurdles here is that the average wait time to see an immigration judge in the system is 587 days.
Yeah.
How do you get that? It seems to me that no matter where you stand on what should happen to these kids, you've got to see that as a problem, as a hurdle to getting to whatever outcome it is you want. How do you bring that kind of wait time down? What are some meaningful steps you could do?
Well, it starts with the supplemental that the president sent up to the request that the president sent up to Congress, and we'll I think really see over the next few weeks how the Republicans respond to it. We started seeing some of their kind of shots across the bow over the weekend. They're trying to place some additional demands on it.
You don't have a few weeks. You got
2 weeks.
At the most 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Sorry.
At the most.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to see very quickly how they respond, if they own up to their obligation to help try to solve this problem. But resources is a huge factor. We've starved the immigration courts. Congress has starved the immigration courts of the necessary resources for decades now. And it's why we've reached this point where the average wait time is 580 days. In some places, depending on where you are, it's much longer than that. It's 3 years. It could be longer. But so what we need to do is we need to have a lot more immigration judges. We need to have them down there at the border. We need to have asylum officers down there at the border, so it's not Border Patrol who are trying to do this vetting about whether or not the kids are facing persecution. You need experts. And then, something that people have been talking about that I think is reasonable when you're dealing with the crisis is this idea of last in, first out, meaning that they will adjudicate the cases of the most recent cases first. And that's a way to kind of say, look, we're going to address this crisis, and we're going to try to, meet the needs that the president has of trying to send a deterrent effect, but we're not going to sacrifice the kids' opportunity to be heard and to make it clear whether or not they've got a claim for protection in the process.
All right, so if we can just ask you to hold right there so we can take a quick break and then come back and continue our conversation about how to resolve this humane crisis at the border with Marshall Fitz from the Center for American Progress and Olivier Knox here is a friend of Bill from the Yahoo News. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies? I can forget to do a list for us. Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
10 minutes before the top of the hour now on a Monday morning, July 14, talking immigration and particularly the serious problem at the border now with this influx of unaccompanied children who have crossed the border seeking safety here in the United States, fleeing the violence in their home countries, particularly Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. Olivier Knox with us from Yahoo News. Marshall Fitz from the Center for American Progress. Olivier, you had a question before the break?
I did.
An important one?
Right before the break, we were talking about the need for resources, for dollars to help fix the system. But I'm wondering, and I say this as someone who knows very little about immigration policy, whether there are also built-in delays and or just statutory authority. Like, do we have, are people currently restricted from tackling this problem in some way, either through delays that say, 60 days after you come in, we need to do this hearing, but we can't do it before? I just don't know whether those exist. Are there those kinds of statutory hurdles?
It's a great question because there has been this debate or confusion maybe recently about what's needed in terms of a change of the law versus what's needed just to provide the necessary resources so that this process can occur more expeditiously. And the truth is that the current law provides ample latitude for the administration to kind of surge resources at these adjudications in a way that could really bring the processing times down.
Don't need to change
dramatically.
the law.
Do not need to change the law. Whether or not there are tweaks on the margins that could be made, that's one thing. But what we don't want, and this is one of the things that's been debated, is Mexican kids, because they're a contiguous country, they have a different process than kids from basically every other country in the world. And what their process is that they get screened by a border patrol within 48 hours. And so that Border Patrol agent has to determine within 48 hours whether they've got a credible fear of being persecuted upon return, whether they've been sex trafficked, whether they've been a victim of violence. The Border Patrol, this is in some respects a rogue agency in this country, is that these agents have to make these point of contact decisions within 48 hours and then decide whether or not to remove them. Then they don't go before an immigration judge. There's no further process. They can be immediately repatriated. We've already found there was a an Appleseed report from 2011, I think. UNHCR has kind of confirmed similar findings that this process is wholly inadequate. People who have been traumatized by being sexually abused or trafficked, or their families have been threatened to, that they're going to kill their families. They're not able to articulate, especially kids. They're not able to articulate their claim in an effective way in front of a guy that's holding a gun, who doesn't speak your language within 48 hours. It's almost absurd to imagine that would be the case. Mexicans were exempted because of a fear that tens of thousands of them would show up in the way that we're seeing now with these Central American kids. What I think should happen is that we should find some kind of sweet spot, some common ground where we're administratively we're infusing the necessary resources to speed up adjudications of the Central American kids who are coming, but also to provide those similar protections to the Mexican kids.
All right. And with that point, we're going to have to leave it. We haven't resolved all the problems. We learned a hell of a lot about the issue and have some ideas toward a solution. Marshall, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for the good work you're doing over there.
Thanks for having me.
Olivier, we'll take the unresolved issues and take them to Josh Earnest at 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Sounds good.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, just a very quick parting shot today to say that there I was in a Capitol Hill Bar again yesterday, watching the final of the World Cup. I mean, who says soccer is not fun to watch? I realized that I watched all or part of 7 different matches of the World Cup, which I think is more professional sports, baseball, basketball, football, golf, than I've watched in my entire life. Because soccer is so much fun to watch, so captivating, so intense, no commercials. It's just a joy. I don't know about you, but I hate to see the World Cup end. I am hooked on soccer. And we'll see you right here
This is the Bill
tomorrow
Press
morning.
Show.